welcome to the Patron Saints of Pop Culture podcast. I'm Miguel Covarrubias.
And I am Kathy Covarrubias. And today we're going to talk about the OA Part 1, Episode 3.
Again, we invite you to come and watch the OA with us as we watch through again for the second time. This was one of our most popular podcasts. In fact, out of all of our episodes, I still have gone back and this week looked at all of the listens that we've ever gotten on our shows. This one still by far outweighs everybody else, nearing 150 listens to that episode.
And that is pretty good for us. It might sound small to you compared to other podcasts, but it's pretty good for your mom and pop podcast.
Mom and pop podcast. Makes
We
it sound
are.
so old.
No, but we are.
I know we're mom and pop.
I just realized
podcast.
that. Like, I was doing it jokingly, but we really are. And that makes me sad now.
Thanks. All right, so our review and summary of this episode. Here's my summary. Prairie's first escapes. It kind of sounds like a toddler's television show. Prairie's first escapes.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, right. Okay. Well, yes, that it's true.
Teaching your toddler how to escape from mad doctors who want to... we haven't gotten to that part yet of what he's doing.
Yes, but we know he's a mad doctor. Wait,
Yes.
Do we know he's a doctor yet? No,
Yes.
He's already claimed to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doctor, and that's why his name is Hap, is because it's like...
Dr.
Harry Aloysius something. Like a really long name, and so they shorten it to Hap.
Okay, my summary, and we'll get to the reviews afterwards. So Prairie is continuing her story with what happened after she was kidnapped. And yes, she does escape. But she does it while she's still blind, and she somehow still manages to escape, and she wants to rescue her friends along with her. So ultimately her goal is to rescue everybody.
Okay.
I wanted to add that little extra bit. There's other people involved.
Well, after episode 2, I really feel that episode 3 kind of begins to elevate the show.
Yes.
It puts it to where you're interested, you want to know what's going on. You're actually kind of rooting for the characters. You're rooting for Prairie and the other angels, I think is what she called them. Even though Homer really kind of is a dick in this episode.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Homer, but, first impressions, right? They're not always the best.
Yeah.
He's been under a lot of stress. He's been kidnapped,
Yeah. And just had a kid
Yes.
or something. And yeah, I really... He kind of forgets his backstory in later episodes, I feel like.
I don't
know.
remember.
Maybe,
Let's not make that speculation.
Let's not make that speculation just yet. But I just feel like all of a sudden this episode gives his backstory, and you're like, wait, I don't remember this backstory at all.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way too, but I think it might be because it's not 100% accurate.
Or relevant, maybe?
I don't know. But anyway, I remember thinking after this episode, I was like, oh yeah, now it's getting good.
Because it takes place in Costco.
No, it did not. That's one of the reasons, yes, but not the only reason why. But after this episode, I became more invested. Like her story became a little bit more real for me. And so I remember after watching this episode, that's when I really got hooked into the story, which is not great. I mean, most TV series, they want you to get hooked like right away. And this one, it kind of took me a minute to officially get fully engaged.
Yeah, and here we actually have the shout which we gave in episode 2, which was "Run, Prairie," which came from downstairs after she pushes him down the stairs.
Yes.
Which is the very end of the episode. So, what I was struck by in this episode really was a thread that I see in almost every single character in this in this particular episode. But bear with me here. I'm not in any way saying that hope is bad, but I think to just the outside observer, it can seem like madness. And I wanted to start this off with a quote from the late Robin Williams, where he said that you are only given a spark of madness. You mustn't lose it. Now, each of the characters in the show this episode, I really think kind of has their own moment of displaying this sort of madness, this mad hope that I think that I'm getting at here. So I think what I really want to ask is has there been something that you really wanted or you really hoped for that really kind of seemed like it was all consuming in a way?
Yes. When we were trying to have Peter, I was so hard focused on trying to get pregnant. Like, I read a lot of blogs. I bought a lot of like ovulation tests. Like, I had a notebook filled with sticks that I peed on. So in a way that seems like madness, right? I mean, that's not something that normal people have in their possession.
Yeah, and that is kind of a bigger issue, and I think it can also translate to smaller things that you hope for. Like, for instance, there's this job that I'm hoping for within the same company that I work for. That, you know, I'm constantly looking at things as well. How would this particular position? How would that come at this bit of feedback? How would I think about this? How would I talk to somebody about this? How would I translate this?
Once you were in that position?
Yes.
Okay.
And I really feel like it would seem like madness to the outside observer. And you see this in each of the characters, especially in Prairie, because that's Prairie's story. But like, for instance, I'm gonna give the example of BB-8's drawing, where you know, I think Steve doesn't necessarily think that it's something that should give her hope, because he's kind of mocking her with it. But for her, she's kind of saying, well, it is kind of a good drawing when you think about it.
Well, and two, like, okay, well, he's engaging with me a little bit more now.
Yeah.
And the way that she reacted to it definitely gave you a little bit more perspective in terms of how she was dealing with it. Because she definitely would have dealt with it differently before she met Prairie. For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but now that she's met Prairie, she's just like, okay, this is a good drawing, and I'm just going to leave it up and just look at it.
Well, and I think that we'll come back to Miss Broderick Allen here, but I really want to think about how hope is not just madness from the outside, but it can also be so very frail, and not just frail, but it embrittles us. Is that a word? Makes us brittle.
Yes.
In a way, is that it makes us frail.
Yes.
That there's a line from the song from Prince of Egypt that when you believe that hope is frail, but it's hard to kill. And I think this is essential for the character arcs in this episode, that you see them experience this loss of hope in such dramatic ways, especially with the first escape attempts. So I really want to focus on really kind of thinking about this for ourselves, and how does it feel when you lose what you've hoped for?
Oh boy. Well, while trying to conceive Peter, having the 2 miscarriages, and then trying so long to conceive and just having such a big time span between pregnancies, it just broke me. Like, when it got to the point, and I think I've said this in earlier podcasts, but it got to the point to where when we finally were pregnant with Peter, like, I just had it in the back of my head. I'm like, I'm just going to miscarry. And, like, this isn't really going to happen. I was, like, pushing my hope down because I didn't want to be hurt again.
Well, yeah, exactly. That you kind of want to squelch that spark of hope that you have in yourself because you're sort of afraid of being hurt again.
Oh, yeah.
And, well, I mean, considering that I have generalized anxiety disorder and most of it's reflective around work and my own experiences with bad workplace things, that even hoping for what may seem to a lot of people as a very small thing, like a new career option, may seem like madness from the outside. And for me, it's something that I want to put out right away because I don't want to dare hope, because it seems like if I do, I'm setting myself up for that much worse disappointment.
Yeah.
In a way. And I felt it as well. I felt it as well with Peter, with every single time going into the doctor's office and, holding my breath when she was getting that heartbeat monitor thing ready, and just, holding my breath that, what if she doesn't find the heartbeat this time? Mm-hmm. And
I almost feel like because of our losses and because it took so long, that it took the joy of being pregnant out of the I know everybody experiences pregnancy differently and not everybody enjoys being pregnant, but I really wanted to enjoy being pregnant. And I probably could have, but my anxiety and the stress over our past experiences really prevented me from actually being in the moment and enjoying it.
Yes, it embrittles us. I'm going to keep using that word, even though it's not really a word.
It probably means something like not related to it.
Yeah, but it makes us brittle. Like you find it so hard to hope again, and you see this especially in Prairie when she just breaks down when they lose the class ring, when they lose the bill down the little stream, and it's probably 5,000 feet under a mountain or whatever she tells them later on.
Which, by the way, why didn't anybody shout out and say, "Wait, don't drink that," when they were shaving and cleaning? Anyway.
Yeah, that just goes back to me saying that Homer was kind of a dick in this episode.
Well, he wasn't the only one that saw her start drinking water. But anyway.
I think this also showed that vulnerability as well, that Rachel kind of finds that place to say, don't lose hope, don't lose that spark. And she reaches out to Prairie and, tells her story about how she experienced her near-death experience and how she's a much better singer now, which, she's a pretty decent singer. But I wouldn't say
it's not just her singing. She has perfect pitch,
right?
Which is a very specific thing that very few people have, and you basically are born with it.
Yeah. Or you can be tone deaf like the rest of us. Specifically me.
I was about to say, speak for yourself, dude.
Well, I'm just saying like the rest of us, it's a very small amount. And I think this is so beautifully shown, especially in Betty and Broderick Allen, in just a few simple shots. You have that first shot of her going over her phone messages and repeating that one message, which I think turns out later to be her brother, but we're not there yet. So, but that you can tell that she has experienced loss in her life. This was foreshadowed in the very first episode when Prairie asked her, when did you experience loss? And you see that the hope has changed in her, that Prairie found that hope and kind of has begun to develop it a little bit in the first 3 episodes, and you see that just in these very short shots of her sitting in her car and then going into her classroom, and you see kind of that light kind of dawn in her. And so I think that hope, in a way, doesn't really necessarily die. It just kind of changes in a way. That what may seem like madness to the rest of the world, that it's really something that's growing and it's catching fire for, the rest of you eventually, once you have it kindled in a way.
And then you join the Hunger Games.
You join the Hunger Games. That's the other way around. This ending of the Hunger Games is catching fire. So do you see that hope changes, or that it doesn't really die, that it's really kind of changed into something else?
I think so. Once we hit halfway through our pregnancy, then I was like, okay, now I can breathe a little bit. I can relax a little bit. The chances of something bad happening have drastically decreased. And so I kind of allowed my hope to, I guess, grow a little bit.
All right.
It was like I had put it back into seed form, and now I was allowing it to sprout a little bit.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, what I would say, what do you hope for now? What is it, something that from that sprout has turned into a fruit now? What is something that you really hope for from that?
Oh, geez. Well, to be honest, right now my biggest hope is to get our plumbing fixed.
Well, since we're on Peter and our children, what do you hope for our children?
Oh, so you not mean the immediate future? You mean
no?
Okay.
I'm talking about how hope has changed, and you started the metaphor, so I'm finishing it.
Oh, well, it's changed into my plumbing, and not my plumbing, into the house. It went from the plumbing in my uterus to the plumbing in our house.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
You wanted connection. I gave you connection.
Okay, you did give me connection. Thank you. All right. So I think this is something that was the theme that the thread that I pulled out from this episode was the kind of mad hope, is what I'm going to call it, is a mad hope that people were going to see as kind of crazy from the outside. And each character kind of experiences this in their own way. You even see this in Hap when he's kind of dumbly staring at Prairie while she's making the sandwich. Mm-hmm. And
maybe I'm not such a bad guy after all.
Yeah.
That's my impression of what his voice sounds like in his head.
When Lucius Malfoy is watching Prairie make a sandwich. I could use him from any other setting, but, that's kind of the one where he stood out the most. And, take away his long blonde wig, you still kind of see him as Lucius Malfoy. In almost everything that he does. But that's just me. I tend to see just one character for each person. And, even though I kind of expect Draco to kind of jump out some point in the OA season 2, I don't think he's going to. Even though he's pressured by his family to be in things. He's not going to be in the OA because that's a different universe.
You're right. He's not going to be in the OA. So talking about pressure and being under pressure, Prairie definitely is feeling it, right? I would say so. If I were in her position, I'd be kind of freaking out right now. Because not only is she feeling responsible for herself and getting herself out of the situation that she partly, you can kind of tell she partly feels dumb about it, because she was so naive and willing to legit have this guy walk her into a prison. But she also feels a lot of responsible to free the others because she's given so much more responsibility around the house. And like I said, that has to be super stressful. I can't even imagine being in that type of scenario. I mean, she's just doing it beautifully. I don't think I would have been able to be as civil as her. That's for sure. I mean, she did
rotisserie chicken sandwiches for everybody else.
Yes, and well, she did push me down the stairs, and that's not very civil. But anyway, so what was a time in your life where you felt responsible for the welfare of others?
You know, I could call back on so many of my experiences as a youth minister, but I'm not going to, actually.
Good job.
I'm going to, even aside from watching 3 toddlers this weekend.
Yes, good on you.
All of them under the age of 3. That was fun. Is really, I think, for my siblings. I think that oftentimes I feel like it kind of falls on me to be the mediator between them, to really be the responsible child for them, because oftentimes, I really feel like maybe you don't end up seeing the flaws in yourself, but you see them in those that you are closest to, in a way. And
you mean you see your flaws in the people that you are closest to?
Yes, yeah,
Gotcha.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
And so that's, I see my flaws in them, and so I feel like I'm responsible for them because of those flaws.
Gotcha.
Even though they're the same things that I'm flawed in.
Well, even when I kind of agree with that I felt kind of responsible for, well, not my older sisters, because they were so much older than me that they were already out of the house by the time I even really cared. But for my younger sister, I felt really responsible for her. And so whenever anything bad or upsetting would happen to her, like I was hurt by that. I'm like, what do you mean you did X, Y, Z? Like, what do you mean this happened to you? Like, how could you let this happen? And I was like, am I not giving her a good enough example to follow in life? Like, am I not providing a good enough, I guess, baseline for being a responsible human? And so anytime that she made a decision that I thought wasn't great, I mean, I think other older siblings can attest to this, I kind of felt like a failure, even though it had nothing to do with me. Really, she's her own life. She's an adult. She can do what she wants. I still felt partly responsible for the bad decision she was making.
Well, and the funny thing about that is that it's my younger sibling who I almost trust implicitly that he's going to make the right decision no matter what, because I think that I do look up to him. I think that he is extremely responsible. He's an extremely well thought out person. But, I still see that flaw, which is also in myself, of kind of putting other people in front of your own best interest to a fault. In that, especially with, both my siblings, that, we'll end up bending over backwards to the point where we're breaking just to make other people happy.
Yeah, which is not good.
No, it's not healthy.
No, it is not healthy. And anyway, and I think that a lot of people can attest to feeling responsible, for others' well-being, even though it's not always placed appropriately.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, in Prairie's situation, she does have a little bit more freedom than the others, and so she is trying to use that to her and their advantage, trying to help them escape. But I mean, the fact that she is blind is definitely not in her favor. And so I think that maybe the reason why Rachel wasn't so like mad at her, I think, is because she was like, well, you did pretty good for being blind. I mean, you did better than probably what most of us could do,
Well, she did also do better than, what did they call, August is the dead body upstairs.
Maybe. I think so. I can't remember. But, I mean, clearly Prairie is not doing too bad of a job, you know? And obviously she's been, at this point in time, she's been blind long enough to where she can pretty much navigate her way through the world without having too much trouble. But still, I mean, being in a new place where you're not knowing where things are, it's difficult. So kudos to her for taking on that responsibility and not falling apart and becoming a puddle of like a human mass when they failed the first time. Because I think that's what I would have done. I would have just given up, be like, okay, I'm done. Like, I tried, I failed. You guys have to find a new hero. But no, she just was like, nope, I'm going to try again. And she took her opportunity and she pushed.
She pushed him down the stairs.
And she ran.
And then it ended the episode in a almost cliffhanger because she's on the edge of a cliff.
She is at the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, do you feel worse for failing yourself or for failing others? And why?
Well, obviously for failing others, and I think this is that a lot having to do with that flaw that I brought up is that I think so much of my life has been dependent upon how others view me that, you know, I want to make a good impression. I want to make sure that they're taken care of before I take care of myself, which is not healthy.
No. I mean, there are certain things that like are fine, but if it gets out of control and becomes a priority in your life, that's when it's not okay. Yeah.
Well, as I've written recently, I've learned that I am not the savior of the universe. I'm not Flash.
Good. I was worried there for a second. For me...
that I was really a football star that was somehow went to outer space.
Wait, never mind. You weren't very good at football, so maybe I wasn't that worried about it. I agree with you. I think I feel worse for failing others than myself because, well, I guess for work, for example, when we are doing a group challenge, I try way harder than if we're doing an individual challenge. If we're doing an individual challenge, I'm just like, if I fail, then I just fail myself and, you know, oh well, you know, I'm just hurting myself. But if we're in a group and I fail, then I'm just like, I failed everybody and I failed the world. And so I guess I give myself more of a break, and I feel like that maybe others might not be as graceful as I am towards myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, also that we know where your weakness is in Survivor if you're ever on Survivor.
Thanks. I don't think I'm ever going to be on Survivor. You don't want to see this in barely anything.
Well, I do, but...
Sorry, world. It's not going to happen.
So, anyway, we didn't have a ton to talk about for this episode.
I feel like this episode was kind of short compared to other episodes, but
it does feel that way, but I think that the shots were done in such a way that it feels shorter.
Yeah.
That they packed so much more information into the shortness of the shots that, it felt shorter. Anyway, since that was a cliffhanger, come watch episode 4 with us, and we're going to talk about that again in 2 weeks.
On Netflix, not a sponsor.
Yes, and also next week we're going to be talking about Maniac, and hopefully we'll be having that done on time and no technical issues, so we just want to apologize for getting this out a day late and almost $1 short. I don't know why I wanted to say that, but I did.
It's okay. So. Hey. You sometimes want to be free and you just want to say what you want to say. Just do it.
Just do what I want.
Just do what you want. Like,
any old time.
Yeah, just do it.
Okay. Thank you, Shia LaBeouf. So watch that episode with us and come for our conversation on Maniac next week. I really liked Maniac. I thought it was fantastic limited series. And we're going to talk about that next week. So, tell tell them how to find us.
Yes, that's my job. So we changed up our Facebook a little bit. So if you guys follow us on Facebook, the name is no longer Honest Faith.
It's Honest Faith Presents Patron Saints.
Yes. And so Facebook was being weird and wouldn't let us change the name. So we had to change it to something that was somewhat resembled what we had before. And so we're hoping eventually Facebook will allow us to go to just Patron Saints of Pop Culture. That's the end goal.
But you can still search at Patron Saints of Pop Culture and you'll find the page.
Yep. You can find us at Patron Saints of Pop Culture on Instagram, which is where we're mostly at. You can also find us on Twitter at Real Honest Faith. And last but not least, there's always the website, thehonestfaith.com.
Which probably will not change until 2020 when my 3-year website purchase is up. So
Because we're frugal.
Yeah, we want to save money where we can. We make no money off of our podcast.
What? Really? I mean, we are so high quality.
Yeah, well, recording this in our living room while our toddler sleeps. Anyway, with all of that being said, we invite you to come and join the conversation.
Bye.